What's going on, people?
What's going on, everybody? Definitely tapping in with the Freeman Collective today. I'm your host, Ernest, and I'll go ahead and let my co-hosts kick it off. Go ahead, Stead.
Hey, Stedman here, Freeman's Collective. Ready to do our show. Hope it can be informative and thought-provoking. As always, got our boy Gerard back. I'm We're glad to have him back. It don't feel the same when it ain't all four of us.
And I'm Darvell once again coming to you out here in the cut to the burbs outside of Detroit. We're gonna really get into the topics today. So thanks for tuning in.
Hey, it's your boy JBL, you know what I'm saying, better known as Gerard Ben Lamont, aka Adolph Rocky, baby, J Rocky. Coming to y'all by way of Nairobi, man. I'm out of the country right now, but I'm still with y'all in spirit and heart. So let's do this. Let's break this down for this political awareness this week.
Yep. So this week's episode 12, is Grammys or Black Bodies, the illusion of progress, ascension, and inclusion. So do we have that? Before we kick off into the actual episode, we want to do some housekeeping. We want to let you guys know that if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, that you should share this video, like, subscribe if you're new to this channel. Outside of that, if you guys are wondering what time we usually air every other Tuesday. So be looking out for us, 2 weeks from now, and we'll be having another show and more content to get into. We also have a call-in number as well. We'll drop that in the live chat, so feel free to reach out to us that way as well. So kicking off to the local beats, Stedman, what you got for us?
Yeah, man, what's going on with it? Hey, and before we get into that, I will remind anybody who tunes in, if you call in, you're gonna hear the music. Don't worry, just chill with the music, vibe to the music. We'll pull you in as soon as we have a moment and we see you in the queue. So be sure to call in. Sorry, Stedman, go on ahead and get into it, man. What are we gonna talk about today?
So on the local beat, 3 topics. So Grosse Pointe Park, a woman, not 3 topics, just 2 topics. A third I'm going to drop. But so a woman in Grosse Pointe Park by the name of, let me get her name right. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to get it right. Her name is Jadana Dingus. Not sure how you pronounce it. I hope I'm not destroying her name. But her neighbor put up a KKK flag in her house, in his window, facing her house. When you look in the article, what happened? She says that.
Let me hit this for a second. Let me play this. Okay. It should play. Let's see.
Now, but the damage has already been done. The city says if there's any legal action that can be taken against the man who hung that flag, that's something that we'll pursue.
And I said, I know there's not a Klan sign in the window next door. And I opened the curtains and I looked, and sure enough, there was a Klan sign in the window next door.
And Jadana Dingus says upset cannot begin to describe how she felt Tuesday. Her neighbor hanging a Ku Klux Klan flag in his window facing her home in Grosse Pointe Park. She initially called state and federal authorities and shared the picture of the flag on her Facebook page before local police got wind of the situation, going to the neighbor's house, urging him to take the flag down.
Detectives who came out from Grosse Pointe Park Police Department told me that the reason that the neighbors put the Klan sign up was because I put a camera on my windowsill to record what was happening on the side of my house.
So, what is that?
Wow. So yeah, I was about to get into that. So basically what happened, she found a full gas can in her dumpster. So, I mean, that's not safe. I mean, to say the least, that's not safe. That's, who would have done that? Right. She full gas can in her dumpster. So she put the camera up so she could see who had done it if they came back to do it again. And so then the neighbor put a Klan flag up in the window. I guess it was a sign he wanted his privacy or whatever. But so this article is old. but it's been dealt with. And so essentially there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do. Is under his First Amendment speech, they determined that it's not considered ethnic intimidation, what he did. So the Michigan Penal Code from Act 328 of 1931, Section 750.147B, and I'll post this link so we can have it, from the Michigan legislature. Section 147B1 says, a person is guilty of ethnic intimidation if that person maliciously and with specific intent to intimidate or harass another person because of that person's race, color, religion, gender, or national origin does any of the following. And it lists from A. So for one, it's A, B through C. So it says causes physical contact with another person, damages, destroys, or defaces any real or personal property of another person, threatens by word or act to do an act described in subdivision A or B if there is reasonable cause to believe that an act described in subdivision A or B will occur. Then it says 2, ethnic intimidation is a felony punishable by imprisonment for not more than 2 years or by a fine of not more than $5,000 or both. And it's talking about regardless of the outcome of a criminal. So this is Section 3. Regardless of the, well, maybe it's not Section 3, but it's subsection 3 in part in Section 147B. Regardless of the existence or outcome of any criminal prosecution, a person who suffers injury to his or her person or damage to his or her property as a result of ethnic intimidation may bring a civil cause of action against the person who commits the offense to secure an injunction, actual damages, including damages for emotional distress or other appropriate relief. A plaintiff who prevails in the civil actions brought pursuant to this section may recover both of the following: damages in the amount 3 times the actual damage. So I'm just that's getting over the damages issue. But this is a tough one for me because we've talked about free speech kind of, especially since January 6th, we talked about free speech. And essentially that was what they ruled, that they couldn't do anything to him on the grounds of his free speech. It's technically inside his house. And none of us would want the government to be able to come in our houses and tell us what we could or couldn't hang on our walls or in our windows, right? I mean, and so this is a tricky situation. And so this has been racking my brain since I've heard about this story. What I've been thinking is, what can black people do that will bring those same type of feelings against white people? And there really is nothing we have. Like, there's nothing you can do, right? There's no equivalent to calling a white person the N-word that matters. There's no white KKK that matters, right?
Mm-hmm. And I would argue just one thing that you could do, and which really seems to truthfully really just burn their bridges, and that's if you desecrate the flag. You desecrate the flag,
the American flag.
Reaction from white people. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And so that's what I was thinking. Like, you'd have to burn the flag every day. You know what I'm saying? Which would be costly and ridiculous. Or we sent some links of different flags that they've taken. People have designed and have put black stuff on it or have done things. So I said you maybe could fly an American flag upside down, or you have to have Kaepernick kneeling with his back to a grave or some. You know what I'm saying? It had to be something dramatic. But that's what I've been thinking about. You know, we don't have anything like that really does it. You know what I'm saying?
It's problematic because when you think about it, being in the KKK or for him to show that flag, that is just as American as apple pie and slavery. So with all of that being said, for us to counteract that, we would have to become un-American, which is opposite to what we're trying to do if we really want to get this equal footing in this land. So it's hard to say, we're finna go ahead and burn all these flags every week, or you know what I'm saying, say death to Congress and death to these folks because they embrace this system of white supremacy. They allowed these courtrooms to foster and set these systems up. But think about how un-American that'll make us, kind of similar to what they did to the Panthers when we discussed COINTELPRO. It's about how the media and other folks can categorize us as un-American or this great threat to the American democracy, which is white supremacy, and then using all of those tools to attack us. So go ahead, Gerard.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Didn't mean to interrupt you, bro. Yeah, one of the main things of whenever you're trying to you want to go against an enemy or what have you, the first thing you have to do is otherize them. And, you know, that's the very first thing. So, like, for instance, almost at every war, being out of prior service, right? But I noticed, like, every war, all the soldiers had a particular name for, you know, the local people. You know what I'm saying? Vietnam. Well, so in World War II, the Japanese were the Japs, the Germans were the Krauts. You know what I'm saying? And Korean War, the Koreans were the Gooks. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Vietnam, Gooks. And then, you know, the war that I was part of, you know, we referred to the soldiers. I didn't, but the soldiers referred to, you know, the local populace as Hajis. You know what I'm saying? So it's no different. I mean, but prior to all of that, you know what I mean, before America got into any of these, you know, foreign wars or what have you, we were the otherized when we were niggas. You know what I'm saying? You know, niggas, and niggas, whatever variation or variant of the word. You know what I mean? And that's part of what I call white domination. Now I'm not even want to refer to as supremacy.
So let's reel this back though. For instance, for real, what we're dealing with is this flag being hung in this window, and all the outcry that came from only black people. Well, I mean, white people probably got upset.
Yeah, they marched. They did march. They marched down the street and stuff. Like, it was a solidarity march. But, you know, what is it? You know what I'm saying?
Right. But what we got though, reality is that law that you just cited earlier, Stedman, it required something that apparently was not met, right?
Right.
That Michigan code required, what was it, an ethnic threat?
Yeah, ethnic intimidation.
Ethnic intimidation, but they're not seeing this flag as ethnic intimidation.
Exactly. And that's the problem.
No, so. I mean, and see, right.
I don't know.
Because, like, you know, what if this was a swastika?
Right.
Right, exactly.
Right. What if this was,
then all of a sudden,
that's the issue.
That's what that law was probably written for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it probably was. It's from 1931. It wasn't for us.
Yeah, what's that? You know? What's that? I can't think of the word, but America, basically, when it comes to blacks, America looking at us from a dehumanized point of view. So it's almost like, you know, anything you can do almost anything or show anything about our people, but if you're looking at some of the other folks who made it into the category of white, you can't really do the same thing. So, you know,
right?
Yeah,
and so that's the thing. I mean, because that would almost what that would say, and so even like I said, as far as free speech issues, that would imply that the Klan has a separate value apart from being a racist terrorist group. I mean, if I put up an ISIS flag, America's at war with ISIS, I would go to jail, or they would at least tell me to take it down. I wouldn't be able to do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Muted, Gerard.
So we want to. I think there's another story we got to hit on the local beat, but I think everybody gets the essence of this. This is crazy that this happened. It's crazy that they couldn't do something more about it. And I really think that what you hit on, Stedman, and what Ernest contrived or what Ernest interpolated, the fact that this ethnic intimidation, this clause that's supposedly on the books doesn't apply to us somehow in this case regarding the KKK flag. Because what other piece of paraphernalia can you hang in a window other than an actual
noose
does it take to qualify as an ethnic intimidation to black people in America? What else does it take?
But that's the thing. It shows that we're not valued as citizens here. What concerns us is a concern of the populace. They're not invested in our struggle in any kind of way. And this is I don't want this to become the only thing we talk about in the local beat. So I'm gonna just try to drop it. But this just shows like all this unity shit and, you know, Uncle Joe shit, and I'm not trying to lay this all at the feet of Joe Biden, but they try to act like this is Trump. This is all Trump, and this is America, dog. This is the country, you know, we all live in, and the inability to come to that realization and accept that, and then really try to do better is going on in this position because you can pawn off what happened on somebody else.
All right, let's roll into that next one though, because you're right. So the next story you had was this right here, right?
Right. Right. So a federal. So I don't know if we haven't talked about. We talked about this a little bit here, where homeowners in Detroit were being overassessed taxes. And so there was a class action lawsuit against the city, Wayne County, a city in Wayne County for taxes being overassessed. That case was dismissed. And so on the surface, that can sound like a bad thing, but the grounds for the dismissal by the U.S. Judge Nancy Edmonds, so she's U.S. District Court Judge Nancy Edmonds, she ruled that there's a state remedy already available that is, and to quote, plain, speedy, and efficient. So there's no need to use the court system when there already is a state remedy. So we have to hope that the state remedy is going to be sufficient. I'm not really sure how that's going to look in practice, because in theory it could sound great on paper. You know, we're going to do all this, but when people who have lost their homes, are you going to give them their homes back? You know what I'm saying? And that's, I mean, to the wider discussion of reparations, that's essentially what we have to understand. Like, you want to repair stuff by just saying sorry when it's black people. You just want to say sorry.
Exactly.
We all gonna be fine.
That's always what it is. And like I've said before, whenever we have an issue, even like this, where we see here dead in this statement, the federal judge on Friday dismissed a lawsuit against the city of Detroit over the late delivery of more than 260,000 residential property tax notices in 2017. They're saying that the delayed deliveries violated the due process rights of all Detroit homeowners because they lost the ability to appeal their property taxes, according to the lawsuit that was filed. And the thing is this: no matter how this plays out, in terms of whether they go through this other remedy system, this other mediation system, or they get it through a court, the fact is everyone tries to, no matter what the harm done against black people is, they like to try to say, well, we're sorry about that. We're going to put some laws in place so it never happens again. And then you find the laws are not written with the right specificity. They're watered down and there's still loopholes. And then at the end of the day, they ignore the damage that has been done. And that leaves us further handicapped. We won't even have to come back to court again about getting overassessed on our homes because we won't even be able to buy another home. Mm-hmm. It's just like this trap. Every time you go through one door, you get stuck. Then you go through it and you get stuck. And you keep going backwards and keep getting locked out.
Hey, so just to make it clear.
And people are still being overassessed.
Yeah, then that's true. But to make it clear in this particular instance and what this was actually specifically talking, because I read this full article, it was about the late notices in 2017. So it wasn't talking about the whole overassessment that occurred between, I want to say, 2009 and 2008 all the way up into 2016. That's something separate. This is just about the late notices that was sent out. And so what the federal judge said that, hey, we don't have jurisdiction based on the fact that they extended the time frame, the city extended the time frame, and there was other remedies for people if they felt that their houses were being overassessed in that particular tax year. So they're only referring to 2017 tax year, but they're not talking about the remaining of the other ones. And so that's why it was ultimately dismissed, because there was I guess a local remedy or a state remedy. Therefore, the federal court said is not within our jurisdiction to make any type of I guess retort, I guess, in this particular fashion because of the lateness. So, but it does. I mean, again, technicality. That's always what it is, right? I mean, just like I was watching documentary and referring to, with the 14th Amendment and how the 14th Amendment was in place. Very good documentary. Check it out on Netflix.
What is it again? Say it again. What's the documentary? Say it again.
It's the one produced by Will Smith. It's about the 14th Amendment.
Oh, the 14th Amendment documentary. Okay.
Right. The history of the 14th Amendment. And one of the things that was so the 14th Amendment was put into place specifically for us and for our lineage, right? And protections to protect us based off of what happened in the Plessy versus Ferguson case, where it ultimately was decided that, the Supreme Court stated that there was no rights that any white man had to recognize of black people, and I'm paraphrasing, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, that 14th Amendment was put into place to deal with all the grandfather clauses and so on and so forth. Even so, the state governments in the South or what have you, they got around it. They got around the rules that were put in place for equal protection under the law, right? That's how they were to come up with poll tax and one of these things. And one of the things that really stood out for me was that it was determined that because laws that were being put in place by private citizens, so how they were able to get away with Jim Crow The logic was, well, this wasn't the state that was discriminating. These were private citizens that were discriminating. Right. Therefore, the federal government couldn't come in and protect, because this was a state rights issue or something to that effect. And you see that right now, like in the thing that we just talked about before, and also the Detroit over-assessment, right? Again, it's hands up. Oh, I can't do anything. When it comes to the damage that happens to Black people, there's always some sort of loophole for that. So, just adding on to what was already said, some more evidence to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we got to keep it pushing, y'all, because, we could get into the local beat all day. There's always something going on in Detroit. I think Detroit is one of the most underrated epicenters of Black life. And I think that everything you can find in Detroit is permanently entrenched throughout this country. And so I think that it's important that people watching this show continue to stay up on what we talk about in the local beat. So Stedman, thank you for that. That was outstanding that we touched on those two things. So we got to talk about the main topic, y'all. Did y'all watch the Grammys?
No. Some highlights though.
I was jet setting. I was outside the country.
Man, listen, you got away from the chaos and the confusion that is anything on TV dedicated to Black people right now. If it ain't got to do with reparations or real policy, it's usually to undermine our position and lull us to sleep. Now, I'm not going to just throw the Grammys underneath the bus in its own right. I'm going to talk about more specifically, the counter or the intersection of not only the Grammys and certain other celebrity news that's come up in the past couple weeks or the past month, but intersect that with the reality of where Black Lives Matter as a movement is today, and intersect that with the mindset of the typical baton carrier not being the police, but in the Black community, we're carrying the baton from our movement elders and our ancestors who passed it to us from the civil rights movement, and the mindset that currently permeates the young professionals or the young able-bodied people who are supposed to be kind of pushing this line for getting reparations and a real transformative Black agenda. So the Grammys was just basically a festival for everyone to celebrate the culture with what Megan Thee Stallion, she took home something, right? She done a grand performance. I think Beyonce set some record.
It was almost like, because of what happened in 2020, and we know we seen some injustice, let's give all the Black people these awards. You know what I'm saying? And in reality, the Grammys, I would say, like, for the past few years, maybe even longer than that, like however long it's existed, it's always been that distraction. It's the celebrity Hunger Games for them to see who's important or who did good that year. You know what I'm saying? And for Black people, we all fans and we want our person to win. So that's almost how you get the whole race looped into this thing and just distracted. Right.
So I ran across a post on Facebook that kind of inspired at least this topic that I wanted us to touch on today. A friend actually shared it with me. She sent me a link in a text message. I hadn't seen this because I used to follow this dude, Philip Lewis, but I don't follow him anymore. And he was kind of putting out there this reality that on Twitter, Samira Rice, the mother of Tamir Rice, spoke out against Lil Baby's Grammys performance and basically kind of went in on a lot of folks in regards to their contributions or their clout chasing on the back of Black bodies, unfortunately, such as Tamir Rice and many others, in terms of trying to feign a sense of activism, right, through their work. But in reality, it usually steps backwards and turns out to be more of nothing, and at best raises awareness. But like we've seen, with all the awareness we done raised over the past 3 years, we still can't get a KKK flag hung in the window on purpose dealt with. Like, that's like...
Right.
So, I don't know. But here's the post, right? So he said... one thing he spoke on, Samira Rice was pretty upset about this, and we're going to show some of the posts that she made on Twitter. But one thing that was also spoken about here is that Mike Brown's father, he said that he's only received $500 from any Black Lives Matter group, even though they use his son's name for events. And I think one of you, I think Stedman or Ernest, one of you knew the backdrop to what that Mike Brown thing was. I really wasn't familiar with it. Apparently he's trying to start an org.
Well, he has an org. He's working with a local activist in Ferguson. I wish I would have pulled his name up, but he's asking for $20 million to help fund this organization on the ground. There was a article out about Black Lives Matter Global had received something like $10 billion. He's trying to request $20 million and saying that they've only given him $5 million, using all this, which I mean, like they call them activists, D-Ray, all those people, activists. He's probably the most famous person that I can think of off the top of my head is D-Ray, because he made sure he was always in front of a camera. But Samira Rice calls out Tamika Mallory, who I believe had a hand in organizing the Women's March. And so, I mean, all of them, man, they just all clout chasers. Those people selling them safety pin boxes, where they sell a box with a safety pin in it to guilty white people so they can feel better about themselves and tell people that they giving black ladies money. It's weird. It's all weird. It's terrible.
It's like white guilt kits or something, right?
Yeah, basically, it's white guilt kits. That's it.
Well, on that same back, that's what Apple just did. Didn't they come up with that Pan-African watch bracelet situation?
Well, we got a picture of that or something?
Huh?
I mean,
I didn't hear about it.
Hey, don't put it up. I might buy it because the capitalist in me is insatiable.
So here's the deal right here, right? Look, so here are a couple of those posts that she made. She just straight up went in. Look at this clout chaser. Did she lose something in this fight? I don't think so. That's the problem. They take us for a joke. That's why we never have justice, because of shit like this. And now this politics says it's a state of emergency. It's been a hell of a year, hell over 400 years. They're quoting what I think she said. And so
Tamika Mallory.
Yeah, she brought that fire, and it's just like
I wonder if we can reach out to her.
I mean, I don't see why we couldn't.
Yeah.
Trying to just get her to share her message with more people.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
And so on the right here, she goes in even deeper, right? She says, "I'm tired of you Black Lives Matters bees that's riding these families' backs, and y'all ambulance chasing attorneys, Ben Crump and Lee Merrick."
Yeah, not Ben Crump.
Yeah,
not Ben Crump. I thought he was a good guy.
He's about getting that money for himself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's why every time
she said, "Make it make sense."
Hey, that's why every time he represents somebody, he got the family hugging the killer and crying and shit.
Ooh, is that part of the deal? You can only get money for black bodies if you hug the killers at the end. So white America feels like this is all that's going to happen to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think like what Samaria is saying is powerful because, she's one of the ultimate victims of this racial injustice that we see at the hands of the police in the court system. But at the same time, Black Lives Matter, like you were saying, Darville, they are the ones carrying the torch, in the sense that most black people, we galvanize to the message of saying, hell yeah, our lives matter. But not understanding you supporting a whole organization that don't really give a shit about your life, just the accolades that come with them saying some shit about it. That's it. So that's where we at.
I got 2 points I want to make. First point, if anything happened to me ever, turn this bitch upside down.
I said the same thing.
Don't hug nobody, don't kiss nobody, mama, dad. Don't hug my sisters. Turn this bitch upside down, okay? That's number one. Do not hug nobody. Do not kiss nobody. Right. Second part, Black Lives Matter as an organization is not a nonprofit. So that needs to be said. They are a for-profit entity.
Oh,
they are not. Yes, they are not nonprofit. They have some shady shit that they do that they funnel their money through.
He just had
a couple of nonprofits. One of which of the nonprofits is headed by Warren Buffett's son. Okay, so they are not a nonprofit. Black Lives Matter is a for-profit, and they got such a catchy name. Like you was just saying, Ernest, it's such a catchy because of course Black Lives Matter. And so you saying this shit, co-signing some shit you don't even know about. It's terrible, cuz it's terrible. It's terrible. The devil always finds a way, man.
Yeah. I think this
He
one might
finds
just
a
be
way.
the worst. This one might be the worst one, though, you know?
So, I mean, I'm going to be devil's advocate. I think that that's out there in terms of them not being a nonprofit. But I think, unfortunately, one thing that they're doing is that they have many different entities and sub like groups, not just chapters, but like I think they got like the global network, and then there's another entity that manages the chapters, and then there's there's a fiduciary that's hanging around somewhere, and then there's some white group that's another fiduciary that's hanging around. So it's a lot of elements to that upper piece, and that's kind of where what's her face has been hanging out, right? Who just came back into the fold?
Patrice Cullors.
Yeah, she came.
Patrice Cullors.
Both of them, because the third one hasn't been in the space for a while, right?
Right.
Making money, making movies, selling books, executive producing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a big thing, right? You talked about, BLM and the faux action, right? I say faux action or lack of action, or these movement driven direct actions, such as the protests, such as the speeches, the things that have driven people's eyes to the TV, the things that make people come out, all this touting of the injustice, but yet there's no real call for transformative justice. So a lot of this stuff, not just transformative justice, but transformative politics to not only ensure that we get justice, but to prevent repeat issues. And that's key, right? If you're not preventing this from happening again by actually going at the heart of the matter, which when you do all the tracing and all the dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and you root all this back, it goes back to our socio-economic position in this country. And that goes back to slavery. And after slavery, that entire span, that all them years up to today, everything you can name from redlining, mass incarceration, Jim Crow, all that stuff has added up to today's condition. I just seen an article that said, like, they've traced, I'm going to pull it up. There was something that just said something really crazy. I don't have it. What did it say? It said, redline homes face higher flood risks from climate change. Climate change just popped up, and now they're talking about the redlining is still affecting us that way.
Of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, if they're going to redline, they're going to put you in the bad. Like, my sister lives in, it's called Annapolis Park. It's right next to Inkster, but it's Westland. But it's where they allow the black people who kind of had a little bit more money, or maybe, had professional jobs. You lived here. You didn't have to live in Inkster proper. You lived in Westland. It's right next to Inkster, though. It's right across the street. On the other side of Annapolis Park is a trailer park, though. So, like, you're still not living next to white people. You're living next to our buffer, which is the trailer park, which we have talked about. And her house floods all the time. And I lived in Inkster. Our house never flooded in Inkster. And I'm not saying they're trying to set us up with a nice area, but of course you put the black people in the flood zone. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, right.
Why you wouldn't put yourself there? You know what I'm saying?
So I pulled up one of now, did I mispronounce her name? Is Samaria Ernest?
Actually, I don't know the truth from
Samira.
Use your black phonetics to
Miss Rice.
It's either one of the two.
Miss Rice.
Yeah.
So Miss Rice talks about Tamika and the crew, you bitches chasing clout along with Sonny, Crump, and Lee. Y'all have literally fucked our fight up. I hope not another family soul use y'all to represent them. Y'all might as well be junior pigs and cops. I'm mad as hell. She straight up called them cops.
Hey, she should be pissed.
Hey,
but like you were saying, Darville, trace back to our socioeconomic condition. And Gerard, to your point, with that Chief Justice Roger Taney, when he stated in the Dred Scott case, he said African Americans had for more than a century been regarded as beings of inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold, treated as ordinary article of merchandise and traffic. So what that's saying is the Supreme Court has already ruled that our lives, black lives, do not matter. and on top of that, people have been following this doctrine for years. So I'm almost at a point of saying, instead of us embracing or even mentioning slavery, because we know that exists, we need to mention these powerful white men in the background or on the back end, like you were saying, how Warren Buffett's son is tied to Black Lives Matter, X, Y, Z. All of this work that we see on the front end with thousands or millions of our people being in the street protesting, looting, whatever forms of protest they choose to go with, that's showing we're doing the work on the front end, but when it comes to the back end, which is policy, we ain't doing a thing. And that's what Samira Rice is pissed off at.
And see, I want to just say, based on what you was reading from Taney, the thing about it, we got to understand, because that was really like, I mean, you read the quote, so it was, but that was free or enslaved people. So even if you was free, like you wasn't, it was like basically he said, because the Constitution didn't regard Negroes as people, as citizens, we still wasn't. And you couldn't, the state or the federal government could create situations that allowed us to expand our citizenship, but as yet we didn't have any. And he's looking at it as a constitutional literalist.
Right. And with that being said, I mean, and there's like actually some counter arguments in regards to that decision. Because if you look at the minority, they also stated, in that very same case, how to the contrary that was not realistic either as well. You looked at our history of our people being, fighting for the revolution, all of our events. You had court cases where slaves actually took their masters to court and won their freedom. So if they weren't citizens, how would that even be possible? So that opinion was the winning opinion. So that was always talked about. Or what have you, and that's what and has always been focused upon. But honestly, as far as the 3/5 compromise or what have you, I don't think that was, if you learn the history of it, a lot of people don't really understand the history of it. It didn't say they were 3/5 of a human; it was 3/5 of the population in regards to counting representatives. Yeah, so it was population. It wasn't
like a census thing, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, I think a lot of stuff gets thrown out there or what have you as evidence that Black people on the books, the Constitution was against Black people, but slavery was never mentioned not one time, and that was done on purpose, obviously. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. Just to have just a counterpoint, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of our ability.
And to bring us,
I think we definitely should expand on that. Like on a later show, that should be a topic we discuss in great detail, because I think that is.
Oh,
what?
There you go.
And it's like, nah, dog. I mean, it have changed. Things have changed. The original document has changed. So I mean, people use that as some kind of indication. We're not really supposed to live here. Like, nah, dog. You got to fight, man.
Oh my
God. You still got to fight.
And check out that documentary, because it talks about, that's why the 14th Amendment made it absolutely clear that if you were born here, you are a citizen, because that was already English common law to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that even whether we were in a slave status or not, we were citizens by birthright. And the 14th Amendment codified that and cleared the whole discussion about who's citizen and who's not. But anyway.
So like, to bring us all back home, Darvell, like talking about the progress, right?
Yeah.
Saying BLM, we should know it's a problem now because of how open-armed the Democrats are, to the point where they painting the streets, calling it Black Lives Matter Boulevard.
It tells you how that tells you how dangerous. That tells you how much of a threat they see BLM. That tells you
not even just the Democrats. The corporations are using it. Yeah. Corporations are using BLM like that. That lets you know a movement is neutered right then. You still don't see nobody with they don't talk about Malcolm X at all. They let you know how they feel about Malcolm X. At all. They don't even
no holiday.
Yeah, they don't embrace that. Right, exactly. That lets you know. You know what I'm saying? Because if the oppressor embraces the message, I let you know how much is co-opted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now you said, Ernest, you said progress, right? Progress. BLM was supposed to be our vehicle of progress in the, in the 21st century here, where we stand today. That's what people think, right? But at the same time, there's also this false notion of ascension that's playing out right now. And like someone, like we've heard before, some of these people in particular the celebrities like Jay-Z and LeBron, sometimes their role in all of this is actually more subversive than you think. Now, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, and we're not trying to say that, BLM didn't do something that helped us in a sense of bringing awareness. What we're just trying to do is bring everyone back around to the reality of we have moved past that now. We're now at another desert. We just walked through a patch of grass. Now we're back in the desert. And now people are starting to assume that the ascension that they see through the Grammys and with all these Black award winners, Jay-Z and these recent moves with the Tidal and what did he sell? Some
Soul Title to Square.
And some cheap grapes again. Didn't he do another cheap grape move?
Yeah.
Yep. And LeBron building schools, and then Tyler Perry's got this whole studio, and there was a shot that was. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's funny.
LeBron just bought stake in the Red Sox.
What did he buy? 1/5 of
LeBron just bought stake in the Red Sox. Boston Red Sox.
We back to that again.
Trying to be like Jay-Z and all those folks.
Yeah.
Hey, but
fractional shares of wealth.
But then everybody Black supposed to go out and go watch a Red Sox game, get them a Red Sox jersey, and then it's gonna drive up like this, and they're gonna sell out like Jay-Z.
Hey, I think one thing.
Then he playing chess, not checkers. He playing chess, not checkers. Fuck you.
He playing checkers because put it this way.
He playing sorry.
Yeah, like even so like when he had the chance to really demonstrate his power and leverage when he was in Cleveland during the Tamir Rice shooting, he was silent about it. And that's because the establishment didn't accept that. So our people, as a people, we need to be more wary of the elites, because even during slavery, even during Reconstruction, there were rich niggas. And regardless of that, they were fighting to keep their position, not to change our positions. So we need to be wary of the elite. And I think if we look at the Black Panthers, they didn't give a fuck about celebrities or being elite. They cared about the communities. And so that's what the government was against. So exactly.
That's why they attacked so hard, because they had a socialist communist message. Yeah. And that's why they attacked so hard. That's why Fred Hampton, at the young tender age of 21, was that much of a threat to the United States government.
Break that capitalistic backbone.
Right, exactly. He was comrade, you know what I'm saying?
Saying he a Rooski?
But when we look at LeBron and Jay-Z and these folks who claim to be us, but they demonstrating a wealth level or a class level that's akin to whites or the upper echelons of those whites, they really don't have much to give us. You know what I'm saying? They just showing us nice things and saying, look at how far I made. I was just one of y'all. But ultimately, they want to get higher and higher because they want to make as much money as those white folks. You know what I'm saying?
And so I was just thinking about with Jay-Z, when everybody had waves and shit and short haircuts and shit, he was doing that. Everybody going natural, embracing who they are. Now you got, the ragamuffin, natty dreads and shit. And he just, him and his wife, they just hop on whatever wave to be relevant. They cannibalize whatever is the social movement. This is what these celebrities do. They cannibalize the movement, the energy, and they distract from what's going on so that you can look at them. They're tools, like we talked about before. Go ahead.
They add on to what you're saying, cannibalize, they commercialize.
Commercialize.
That's part of that cannibalization, eating into it. They commercialize it only for their economic gain and wealth position. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: you can't sell your liberation to. It's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
right?
You get that.
So go ahead, Ernest.
I was gonna say you get that Meghan Markle effect. I know you want to cover a little bit about that. So,
right.
You can get so elite, you can fucking join royal blood, and that's not gonna change what you is.
Swirling is gonna save us. Swirling is gonna save us. We just gotta swirl harder. We gotta swirl harder.
That's horrible, man. So, I mean, here's the thing, though, right? Some people, everybody knows Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, American member of the British royal family, and a former actress. Now, the former actress piece, I didn't know.
You didn't know?
And so he plays into kind of the stuff.
Yeah, like some small roles, though. But yeah, she was on some.
That's what I'm saying. She was an actress. You don't even know her for that shit. You know her for marrying the prince. Like, bitch was a whole actress. Now, it was small shit. You know, she was like the slutty girl. My wife was telling me. The show was so terrible, my wife couldn't even watch it. That's how terrible the show was. My wife watched trash. She didn't even watch the show. She watched trash. Okay? I'm going to get it later. Next episode, I might have a black eye, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Domestic violence is real. But it's trash. And she didn't even watch the show she was on.
But look, so here's the deal, right? So Meghan, you know, she went into this, you know, this relationship, this marriage with the prince, and they had this affair, you know, this lovely wedding and all these things that occurred over there.
Who was at the wedding, Darville? Rihanna, you got
all these people. She had nothing. This is, dude.
It was black girl magic during that time. Yeah. And she didn't even claim to be a black girl. That was the part that was
right for me. Swirling though.
Gave him that Kamala.
She wanted everybody black there except her husband. She wanted everybody who was black to be there except her husband.
Right.
Hey,
listen, no, for real. So let me just level set, because I don't want people jumping down our throat thinking we're just out here bashing things and people just because they made fame or made fortune. No, this is really having to do with the actual house of mirrors that's been constructed through all these things we're giving you as examples tonight, in terms of this idea of progress, ascension, and we're going to get to inclusion. But the Meghan Markle situation is pretty powerful in the sense that not only did she, of course, have this thing that so many people predicted happened to her once she got into that family, but more importantly, not only through the wedding, but through her entire existence to the black consciousness in America. We're not even talking about Britain, but in America alone, this idea that we had seen more of ourselves ascend and create this idea that we can achieve, creates this continued notion of this idea that there are no real glass ceilings, there are no real roadblocks. And so that's where you get these toxic levels of ambition that feel like they have a home in any black body. And the only toxic levels of ambition you should have in a black body is people going for real transformative politics and reparations. Because if you don't have that type of ambition, you're going to keep seeing stories like this that we're covering tonight. And that's the only way you're going to be able to flip it. You don't need this right here with Meghan Markle. I'm not trying to shoot at I ain't got nothing negative to say about her in particular. But it just really has to do with this idea that people are looking at this image of her as being something for us. And so this is part of that celebrity veil, right? Like everyone from LeBron to, you know, I really do want to touch on, what's my man? Who's my man's that got the studio? Tyler Perry and his involvement. And he was what they call him, a white knight, a black knight, whiteness.
What about Barack? Shit. You know, that's a form of celebrityism at this point.
Oprah, Gail, Serena. I'm telling you, that's what they all thought. Swirling was going to set us free. That's all the world needed, was for some rich white man to love a black woman. And now we all free.
Stop stabbing. Hold on, not us free, black women free. They already divided our community. Now it's like, well, leave them niggas alone.
Oh yeah,
you know, we got no. It wasn't. It was black women. That's why we're seeing this black girl magic. You know what I mean? Even Google putting up only black women for Black History Month. Man, it's like, no, we gonna just completely separate from y'all niggas, i.e. being males, black males. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna swirl our way to the top. This is what we need. You know what I mean? This is the progress of what happened.
It's well proven, right? That there is there is a well proven track record of a conscious effort to continue a divide between the black male and the black female, whether it be inside or outside of a relationship. Many publications, media outlets, and movies, and so on and so forth, embed in the culture a divisiveness between the two sexes. And that's based on the fact that there are failures that men have had due to the state that the government's created to go after us. And then that destroyed the black family. And now, because black men don't have it together as we wish we did in many cases, it looks like we can paint a picture over black men so that black women run away from them.
And it's been done. So, I mean, and the gender war went into effect right in post-slavery. right? You know, when black men won the right to cast the vote, you saw the white suffrage movement, you know, with the Susan B. Anthony's and all of those. That's the source of all of this gender war in the black community. They immediately started to attack black men because it was like, oh no, how are you going to allow the black man to get the vote before the white woman? You know what I'm saying? And you know, we could maybe do this show later on to go into the particulars of it. But the story, but you saw Sojourner Truth actually joined in that as well. You saw, you know, black women, you know, being attaching themselves to the white woman with the white feminist movement. You know, from there, and it's always been meant to derail us. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, let's keep on going about. We got Meghan Markle up. What was the other points that we wanted to make about her?
Yeah, so I mean, really, I think that's pretty ish for Meghan here. I think Meghan is just the conclusion of our celebrity element that makes up this idea of ascension, right? Because one of the things that can further create problems for us, and as we're about to roll right into, you just talked about black business, or rather, you talked about women being uplifted. And one thing that I seen more recently, before Women's Month, was the statistics being rolled out about black women opening up businesses at very high rates, and all the I want to say the statistics and studies and different media pieces that go to try to further the idea of black women being more fruitful and capable than black men. Again, we're not trying to let me be clear to anybody watching right now. We're not here to create problems or to start some conspiracy theory of black women coming after black men. We're just talking about what's been put out there and the reality of it. And the fact that in reality of today is that we don't have the household our grandparents used to have. We don't have a community our grandparents used to have. And there's reasons for that. And that's causing us even more issues today. That's why people are so frustrated with everything from dating to just trying to keep their family together, even if they were never married. And so this idea of celebrity and people like Meghan Markle just really appeal to that aspirational television element, as well as aspirational life through other celebrities. And so they really make people think we're ascending. But guess what? They are less than 1% of the 30% that's leaving the 70% behind. And I say 30% to conclude and roll this right into our other element. Our other element is this idea of inclusion, specifically that we've arrived and we're now being allowed into spaces with equity that is on par with our white peers and counterparts, and that's on par with our contributions to this day, right? We talk about black faces and high spaces a lot, right? But we know that those black faces tend to not bring real transformative policy or changes in those spaces. They usually just get in there and they do just enough to get the job done for what they've been paid for and not get fired, right? They don't want to be like Ice Cube and get fired on their day off. Was that Ice Cube?
Yeah, it was
All right. Create.
But they also don't want to get fired on the job because they went in to try to do something for us, right? That's unfortunate. But the black business statistics with women opening up more businesses than men, the education with women being more educated than men, the vacations, that's one of the things I see in a lot of my spaces is like this idea of just kind of living a life that is escaping. It's escapism, right? And when you're able to indulge in so much escapism and then even still own a home, you think we are included in the American dream at this point. So what happens is you take this idea of progress from Black Lives Matter, you take this idea of ascension from celebrity and other black faces in high spaces, and you get this idea of inclusion as well from individual pursuits of the less than 30%. When I say 30%, 30% of the black community goes to college, and then less than half of that community actually graduates. And so then you're talking about a very select group of people who go on to get jobs that require a 4-year or higher degree, who are getting paid six figures out of a corporate America setting where they can have a little bit more influence and have peers. Not that people don't start businesses or work great trade-based jobs that make six figures or more. But what I'm talking about is that even within that 30%, which includes those tradespeople who go to 2-year or do things on their own, even within that 30%, the real issue that has us marching in the street, the real issue that has us in demand for real policy changes is the 70%. The people who make up the majority of Detroit, the people who make up the majority of Chicago in terms of the black population there. in all these other major cities where these issues continue to plague us. That's who we've been leaving behind. Someone may have seen on Facebook recently, I posted that the 30% is leaving the 70% behind because the 30% thinks we're included, that we've ascended, and that we're now seeing progress. And they don't think they have a role in it.
And see, a part of that is the trick. Like I always talk about, when you look at social movements, right? You look at the Black Panthers, you look at the hippies, and you look at how that revolutionized America, right? We're still talking about it today, right? Because we haven't had another social movement in 50 years that really got up to, except maybe close this last year, this summer, with the killing of George Floyd, that even looks similar to that, because that was sustained over a period of years. The Panthers were from 66 to like what, 74 or something, 88. So what ends up happening though is America has to figure out ways to get its dissident groups to buy in. So what do? Just like in the 80s with all the people going on working on Wall Street and you hyping Gordon Gekko and all this shit, and consumerism, fighting the Russians, fighting the Soviets or whatever, because you have to make these people feel like they can be a part of the group. And so you just let a little bit of them in, that same slave master, slave owner, slave driver dynamic we talked about a lot, where you let a few people in and they can see, you can aspire, you can achieve, you can strive. We'll give these niggas a black president and then they'll buy into America. You see what I'm saying? That's what they do. They give you a bone, and hopefully a bone will be enough, right? They sell you low, and if you buy low, they don't need to work any harder to get your vote or your support. You've already bought into this system. So that's exactly what you're talking about. They have been able to take a small group of black people from the whole and tap into your aspirations as a black person to finally feel belonging in the country you built for free. And they use that against you. They use your own people who are willing to be tools. Because we always talk about this whole idea of tools. A hammer doesn't ask to be used. A hammer is just there. You use it when you need to, and you put it down when you're done. And that's what these people are. They're tools. They're tools of the system of white supremacy. That's what they are.
So we lost our man Stedman for a second. Yeah, see, here's the thing. Without Stedman, like, that's Adolf's life, baby. That internet connection ain't always up.
hey, you done beat him out, Gerard.
I told
we gotta tell him that.
Was that not?
No, I'm here. Gerard got fired because I told you, dog, our internet was trash over here. I had another story about the infrastructure, man. It's terrible. But the fans watching me because they can always cut my line. They cut my line when I talk on the phone. They cut me when I talk on the phone because they watching. They got a target on that.
Revolutionaries over here, baby.
Hey, and even just to piggyback on what y'all saying, like the disparity. If we saying that we have true inclusion, we shouldn't have the disparities that we have today. So there should be that 0.13 GPA average for black high school students in Baltimore, Maryland. It shouldn't be that. If we had this inclusion that America said, if affirmative action and those programs were effective as they were meant to be, but in reality they aren't, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in today. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know, you guys ready to transition into your mans now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess so, man. I just want to say this.
I wish we could talk forever. I love this show, dog. I wish we could talk forever because we'd be here forever, dog. Everything we talk about is interesting.
Real, you had something, brother?
I just want people to take home this message, right? Think about this seriously. Like everything we done talked about, this is in the newspapers. Newspapers making money off of the white eyeballs that look at their different media outlets to watch how we continue to be cut out, left out, and marginalized. But I got people who have the ability to go out here and do something about it, whether it be march or it be write their congressperson or get involved in rewriting these bills like this goofy HR 40 thing that might pass. And
they go fast.
Cats trying to take vacations. I want to take a vacation too. I'm not saying you shouldn't vacation, but like, dang, if we all take them, ain't nobody gonna get nothing done. The 70% gonna stay right there in the ghetto, and the rest of us gonna be in Southfield. All right, let's go.
You are listening to Your Man's Now. It's Your Man's
plans is this? I need to know. I really need to know.
Man, where the heck is Stedman?
So, you know,
Oh, he turned off his video.
I'm still here.
Yeah,
I'm still here. I'm bad.
You good, Stat. So jumping into your man's now, I think just to tie all of this stuff to what we've been talking about, right? We want to say, you know, when we just think about what we said about Roger B. Taney and his comments on, you know, there's no laws for black people that white people should respect or have to respect just off the grounds of the Constitution. As I was saying earlier, this stuff feeds through and it just comes down the pipeline over the years in different forms, shapes, policies, and peoples that we have to deal with. And so for today, Ron Johnson made, you know, your man's name because he obviously made some racist comments in the news. And what he said was, you know, pretty much the same that Trump said, that those protesters during the Capitol breach were peaceful and that they were law-abiding citizens. He doesn't believe that they would ever break a law. You know, that's pretty much how Ron is supporting or defending those groups of people. And even at the same time, he's saying that despite the fact that it may have been people who were involved in hate groups there to support, you know, whatever agenda they were there for. And so, you know, another comment that he made was, if the shoe was on the other foot and Joe Biden was in office and that was Black Lives Matter and Antifa who came down there, that we would have seen chaos and there wouldn't have been any law and order, which was completely racist because he's basically trying to say that, you know, black people for the most part don't know how to behave themselves during protests. And that's not the reality because we're often met with batons and, you know, severe aggression from our own government. And so that in turns doesn't allow us to protest like the normal citizenry. We have to do things that are a little bit more drastic just so that we even heard. And so, you know,
right. If they thought black people was going to show up, they would have had like troops right there, not Capitol Police.
Which they did. Yeah. And we saw the response when they did think that. And it was, you know, very well aggressive and prepared for anything to go down.
And so I'll say this about Ron Johnson before I let you guys go ahead and jump in. But, you know, Ron Johnson is to me, he is as similar as, you know, Stephen King, Cindy Hyde. You know, we got these people in Congress who believe that, you know, white America can do no wrong. And at the same time, they don't believe that there are hate groups within white America. They just believe that these are true patriots. And so with that logic being followed, they don't have a problem with the KKK or David Duke endorsing the entire all of the GOP candidates in a sense of saying that this is his way of protesting immigration or whatever, or, you know what I'm saying, combating that is by supporting candidates who he doesn't believe. You know, they don't care about the hidden messages or anything like that. The only thing they truly care about is protecting the status quo and the current system that's in place. And so that all, like I said, that all to me traces back to the founding fathers, you know, Roger Taney's comments and all of that. And, you know, in a nutshell, it couldn't explain why Black lives don't really matter in America. So that's all I had to say, guys.
I mean, all this is revisionist history, and you see it in the real time, right? You know, this is, you know, they say that the South lost the war, but they won the peace. And and that's how we, you know, we got this whole idea where you can talk, you know, you have people today say that, you know, the Civil War was about Southern heritage and states' rights, when explicitly, when you look at the documents and the reasons why the South succeeded was over slavery. But you can have such a disconnect. And this goes back to our earlier episode when the riots happened, when we did that episode where the Capitol riots happened. We did an episode, we broke down like, hey, this isn't the first time we've seen white aggression act out like this. This is just the next, you know, facet of it. What comes up right behind that is the justification for it. You know what I mean? And to me, this is part of, I don't call it white supremacy, I call it white domination, white normalization. And this is the normalization part. This is the part how they can, you know, they try to, you know, they come up with a fake argument behind, you know, and so in this case, you're creating a straw man, right? You're going to, you know, and Ron Johnson saying, well, hey, if it was Antifa or black people, you know, it would be a worse thing. But that's a straw man in this argument. The reality is that that's not what happened. You know what I mean? What happened is what we saw. You know what I mean? But there has to be some sort of way to, to cover it. I mean, I remember right after they were trying to say it was Antifa. It was, Black Lives Matter Friday. It wasn't these groups. You know what I mean? You got people saying that. I even had a coworker say it. You know what I mean? I just ignored it because I didn't have the waste of time and breath to even argue the points out, man. But again, she's one of these, hey, I'm a Republican. I took this particular point of view. Now she's very nice. You know what I mean? To me, she's never been mean to me on any level. Very cordial, very nice. And this is how they, a lot of most of white America can back these ideas, back this stuff, generation in and generation out. This isn't a generation thing either, because we've seen this as continuous onslaught. You know what I mean? We know it's not, the racists, they're gonna die off, blah blah blah. No, man. This is part of the right normalization. That's what we start calling it, because it really is normalization. You know what I mean? How do you take something that's so vicious, so outrightly, very apparently wrong and visceral, but justify it? You gotta spin these lies to yourself, and that's what America has always done. Spin this lie. We the greatest country, the most exceptional country. So
that's why Biden. See that right there is why Biden's messaging is so powerful, because he continues to coddle America's state as is and allows people to let go of all the harm that they've done and just continue on. That's why we always have said that Biden's basically, he was Trump in the closet or something.
Blue
like he's
MAGA.
just gonna
right. Yeah. Blue MAGA, yeah, that's what it is.
Blue MAGA. I like that. Because Bill. Right, because when you look at what his messaging was, build back, build back better. You harkening back to a past that never existed, cuz.
Yeah,
that never was good.
Same thing Trump said. Yeah,
make America great again. That's all. And remember, Obama come out. America's already great. Wrong, nigga. Wrong. You know what I'm saying? Wrong. And so it's just like you are wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, when was it ever truly great though? I mean, it was great for other people. If you follow Roger Taney's rhetoric, just don't include black people. It was great for everybody that came over here. That's the truth.
It's about to be great for everybody at the border, at the border right now.
Hey, they having a hard time right now, bro. They taking volunteers to come and help.
Yeah. Seen that. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Volunteers. I'm not going. Who? No. And it's interesting though, right? Because what is it? Again, we're not here trying to support Trump or nothing like that. Don't get us twisted. I know somebody's probably, they over here Trumpers. And no. We're talking about the realities of this particular administration in the context of America's reality. And what happens is when you actually compare apples to apples, you find that both of these apples have a rotten core and a very nice vinyl wrap around the exterior. And so what it was is, if you harken back to the 2 episodes ago, we done Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Right. Yep. Same cop car.
Same cop car, man. That's the deal. Good cop, bad cop, same cop car, and you still in the back. So don't think that this guy who just installed, and Black Americas, I guess, the black pundits on TV are, and then some black, I won't say leaders, black prominent blacks are trying to give the black community this accolade for getting Biden in office, right? And they're trying to use that as clout for not only themselves, but also to get leverage with the administration that still, I don't think, has met with BLM. But
they might have met. You never know what these.
You never know, but they want. Hey, if you don't know, that tells you how successful it was.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and then, who was it? Wasn't it Cube trying to get in with him?
Yeah, but I feel like with Black Lives Matter, even if they meet with him, it's all going to be material. Shit. Kamala might come out with a fucking afro, afro puffs in the ponytail or some shit, and give a good speech to us, and we gonna be like, that was some black girl shit.
Listen, man.
She fucking doing it. Obama came out and said it.
Girls.
That's all it's gonna take, like shit. Obama could host the celebrity basketball game at this point, and black people would be happy. The masses You know, so shit. You know, shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I don't even know where it was. With that Kamala, her keynote speech for Black History Month. I found it on the White House YouTube, and they had more downvotes than anything else I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Like,
and so, like you were saying, Darville, with the escapism piece, a lot of our people are trying to escape a brutal reality. Like, you can't escape what happened in the 60s. That is the exact. What happened in from the 40s to the 60s. We included the red line and the urbanization of the cities and all of that good stuff. Then taking the jobs away in the 70s and 80s and all of that. With what is it called? Globalization. Yeah,
right.
So with all of that stuff happening, that is exactly how you have 2021 Black people who are in, like they say, third world. We got third world problems living in the first world country, and that's the issue.
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah. And see, like, because America refuses to come to terms with itself, you're going to always have elements that are discontent in this country. They're going to be justified. I mean, we would love to be able to just be on here bullshitting about any old thing, living a life. But we can't, because we have been hampered for 400 years. And so we have to continue to try to educate the masses of people, carrying on a tradition, I guess you call it like being heralds, heralding on the potential for a better world, a better America. You know what I'm saying? Because dog, it's crazy, man. America, they just keep running from the shit, and you keep trying to throw money, insufficiently money, really, at the problem instead of trying to really have a sit down and address the shit that needs to be addressed. You have to give people something, dog. Reparations, dog. That's it.
Like, it don't even take as much money. It don't even really require as much money as Black Lives Matter received to get done the job we need done. It don't even take that much money, really. Like,
it don't.
So anyway, well, y'all.
I would say maybe it do, just to play devil's advocate, because right now when we're looking at the wealth position, they throwing trillions into all of these distractions. If you able to get Black people to play basketball, football, soccer, dance, sing, TikTok, shit, we the only ones willing to do this out of our own volition. So shit,
spend that money over here.
Trillions in distractions. If people was getting paid to talk on reparations and all of this, best believe it would be happening, right?
A reparations tournament, you know what I'm saying?
We got the best plan. Let's go.
Right. Put that in your March Madness bracket. Shit. You know what I'm saying?
This guy said we need 16% return on the interest of the bonds that we giving to the babies. Anyway, y'all, we better wrap this up, get it packaged up for the people. We've been talking for about an hour and a half almost. So, I got to spin it out to Ernest and then Gerard and Stedman. I'll close it out after you.
Yep.
What's your takeaway? What's your close down? What's your shutdown on this, E. Russell?
Yeah. So closing comments for me, guys, is keeping in mind these three things. Have our people truly had progression or progress in America? Have we ascended? And are we really included? Because when you think about it, we not included if you can get killed for a fake $20 bill. If somebody can run in your house and kill you while you sleeping, and at the same time, they ain't gonna run in somebody's house who got a KKK flag up, which is obviously meant to intimidate a group of people, or X, Y, and Z. So that's to show you that, we're not really included, but we think we are. And so my last few comments is just keeping in mind that this system will only continue on as long as we let white people get away with escapism, as long as we let them try to set the moral standard when they are morally flawed people. And at the same time, as long as our people continue to be distracted by the things that they crafted in the 70s and 80s that took us away from the focus that we had in the 50s and 60s when we had dogs being sick on our ass just for being Black. So, that's, I would say for you guys tonight, the one thing I want you to take away is just know ain't shit changed. We just think it did. And that's where I leave it at.
Hey, man. Hey, bro. E. Russ, man, that's hard to come behind that, man. I'm in total agreement. Well, definitely what you're saying, man. And with my motto, man, I always end my little piece with, we have no permanent friends, we have no permanent enemies. We only have permanent interests. And with that being said, we have to really, stand up for our permanent interests or what have you, or our interests at heart. And it's for our people, you know what I mean? And it's gonna take more than just, like I said, being involved in the fluffy, and it's easy to get consumed in consumerism. We got Netflix, HBO Max, you know what I'm saying? We got all these streaming services, movies, blah, 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 alcohol, all these distractions. That's what it is, man. I mean, that tactic has been going on since the Roman times. It was called bread and circuses. Give them bread and circuses, you know what I'm saying? So, while we strip away their rights as citizens, you know what I'm saying? At least they'll be entertained and they'll be fed and they won't argue. You know what I mean? We got to break away. We got to break out of that and embrace, the hard fight. And that's really what it is. This political stuff is not, it's no glamour in it. And that's the reason why, people don't really pursue it. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. It's arduous. Just, you got to do it over and over again. Freaking in the Islamic community, there in the Islamic faith, we have it that the Prophet Noah, he lived to be 900 years, and for 900 years he was trying to prophesy to the people that, hey, believe in one God, and the flood was going to come. 900 years, you know what I mean? He did this, you know what I'm saying? At least it's in the Islamic tradition, right? But it came. He was prepared, and his people survived. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, right? You got to be part of the fight, and for anything to change, you can't assume into the system or assimilate into the system fully and think that assimilation within itself is a game. So again, I end with: we have no permanent friends, we have no permanent enemies, we only have permanent interests.
So now I'm kind of mad because Ernest did that nice outro, and Gerard was like, "Oh man, I can't come past that." And then he did a nice ass outro, and I'm about to come with some off the wall shit. So first, speaking of my internet, because internet is always trash. Watch this YouTube show. This guy was looking for $200 a month apartments in Tokyo, one of the most expensive cities in the world. And this $200 apartment didn't have a toilet, didn't have its own tub, none of that. Barely had a sink. That's
a closet, man.
It was bigger than the closet, but it was just filthy. It was filthy. They had fiber internet. $200 a month, fiber internet. So this is America, cuz. This is America. Okay? This is America. We don't even have fiber all over America. Okay? Second part. And I just really want to hit on this because I want to be the bad guy. I wanted to do it early, but Meghan Markle, okay? Stop feeling bad for her, okay? She married into a family that is responsible, at least in great part, for creating the system. Gerard, you didn't call it the system, white supremacy. White domination, okay? And she was perfectly fine marrying into that family until they did her wrong, okay? Prince Harry, all he left his family for his wife. Fuck that! He knew his family was fucked up. He knew it was fucked up before he met her. He was fine. Oh, he just needed an out. If you needed an out, you didn't have enough integrity to do the right thing when it was going to hurt you. Now you can lean on her useless ass career. They're both terrible people. The royal family is racist. Of course they are. Okay? Ain't no more Tasmanians left. Okay?
Exactly.
All the Aborigines in Australia living in the fucking edges and
all the white
society.
people in Australia.
New Zealand was a country. Okay? New Zealand had all kind of people on it. Okay? White people live there. Fiji, the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea. That's far as fuck from Britain. Okay? Of course they racist. And she knew they was racist. And he been knew his family racist. And of course the queen gonna say no such a thing. They're not heroes. And fuck Oprah too.
And they honor
They're
their
not
lineage.
heroes.
And I hope we're wrong for even doing all this. Cause
You know what I'm saying? Tyler Perry, fuck him. They know what's going on. They was fine killing at the fucking Westminster Abbey, clapping with the black preacher in the choir and shit. That was the same racist motherfuckers there too.
Man.
They got you acting like she's some kind of martyr. If they would have let her alone and let her be the fairy tale princess she thought she was going to be, you never would have heard a peep about racism. They could have said the shit about her son being too dark. If they would have let her alone and let her be a fairy tale princess like she thought, you'd have never heard shit about this because she would have been fine with it. She's upset because she bought more. She bought more than she could pay for. Right? She bit off more than she could chew. Anybody who wanted to be in any royal family from Europe, at least, has a problem. Anybody who belongs to a royal family in Europe has a problem. Harry dressed up in a fucking Nazi costume for Halloween. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. One of the Queen Elizabeth's uncle went and he actually abdicated his share of the royal family to go to Nazi Germany. He was a fucking officer in the Nazi army. Fuck y'all. Everybody who feel bad for her could eat a dick. That's all I got.
That's Stedman right there. You gonna wrap that up. Listen, I'm gonna be quick because we done burned through a few extra minutes here. We're 1 minute over cycle, but I want to share something that Gerard touched on in terms of this real work, in terms of holding politicians actually accountable to change policy to match a real black agenda, in terms of withholding the vote until we get a real black agenda that matches what we actually need for our vote, in terms of the work, in terms of going after these different organizations that are responsible for uplifting us, that haven't done the work in over 20 years. In terms of holding all these different things true, people don't want to do that real work. And this is something I told to somebody earlier today. She was talking about starting a nonprofit, and we were just exchanging messages in regards to, what really needs to happen in the space of nonprofit operations for the black community and for social uplift. I told her I look at it like this. There are two parallel teams or lanes you can be in, right? The first one is the triage and rescue team. That's where you meet people where they are, you bandage them up, you feed them, you get them jobs and housing, and you get them back on their feet and you keep them safe for now. Then there's the other lane. There's the forward policy team. You go out and you flip the offending systems permanently through black focused policy based on a sound transformative agenda. This intent is to obtain reparative resources, protections from future abuse, compensation and recompense for damages already done, programs to rebuild elements of the community, and installation of sufficient ongoing maintenance safeguarding. That is the forward policy team. There are two teams. Your triage team that stays back with the people, the 70%, and make sure they can get through their life and live in the best they can in the conditions that we've been dealt. And then you got your forward policy team that's supposed to be the go team. Gerard, the people who go out into that field and they make sure that they push that enemy all the way back. Mm-hmm. And then they destroy him right there where you leave him. You kill him.
And close with and destroy the enemy. That's the motto of the infantry. You know what I mean? Close with and destroy. That's the main purpose of an infantry unit. Yeah, and that's soldiers, front line, vanguard.
Go right in there, right? And so this is what it is, though. Most people, and I told her, most people choose the team that stays back because they can really understand and see tangible impact. It touches their heart. They feel like they're making a difference, like feeding the needy. But that team will always be needed. If the forward team doesn't make progress, we will always be in a reparative mode, trying to triage, put bandages on, trying to stop the bleeding, trying to keep people in their homes. If that forward team doesn't go and deal with the enemy, people shy away from that forward team because that's the offensive team that gets shot at, and they get shot at first. And the progress never feels warm and fuzzy until you're done, right? Because in any moment they can come right back out of the bush. You don't know where they at. So until you done, you don't feel that warm and fuzzy. So people tend to think that forward team and that forward progress isn't all that possible to attain and maintain against dominant society and government. And we just got to hold down what we got. They feel like what we got to do is just work hard, look toward our celebrity leaders for inspiration, and let BLM handle the rest. So I think y'all gonna see BLM ain't gonna handle nothing. And y'all need to get your own system together and start pushing back because they leaving the guns on the ground and they running to the sideline. Well, they didn't have no guns, my bad.
Well,
Anyway,
they had their hands up, remember?
Oh,
Hands up, don't
let's
shoot.
not. No, that was for a reason. Let's not do it. That was for a reason. Hands up,
Well,
don't
I'm just
shoot.
saying,
No.
they
But
hands
now
up, they wasn't holding no gun.
But now it's, even that's being played out of proportion. Got white people doing it. Talking about some hands up, don't shoot in Washington. So
Oh my gosh.
take anything.
Right, and we don't.
Anyway. Hey, why somebody in the comments talking about your birthday, Stephen?
It was last Thursday. It's late.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, no.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. That was my older sister, so.
Go ahead and Adolf it,
All righty.
Happy birthday to ya. Right?
Happy birthday to you. All right, now waving bye. We're gonna sing that. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.